Well,
I use patience loosely.
are you excited for the Kobolds reveal in 2 days?
I am. I'm really excited for the new
Well,
set.
just
There's some
started
interesting
wanted to
mechanics.
start talking about the new expansion, but they we
Yeah,
just
screw that. Game's
they
gone.
just jumped to the game. So it's Druid versus Druid, basically mirror matches. I think they're like difference in one card. Let me check.
Hmm.
DrJikininki, what kind of text is he running? He has one Spellbreaker in his deck, and that's about it. Let's check if Kolento is running that as well. No, he's not running the Spellbreaker, and instead he's running Medivh. So a
Okay.
bit more packing late game power than DrJikininki in this case.
Yeah, just Kolento targeting control decks a little bit harder. Dr. J wanting that option to silence. Both are certainly very reasonable and both honestly inconsequential in this matchup. It's just going to be who can ramp mana faster, who can ramp Jades faster, and honestly, who can hit Ultimate Infestation on turn 10. Both players have very nice starts and are really well equipped to get to that point. So this is pretty even paced right now.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. Both players are drawing all the ramp. Kolento has access to Nourish, which can just give him triple ramp this turn. If he goes for the Nourish, then into the Wild Growth, it's gonna be turn 10 on turn 5.
Yeah, turn 10 is technically turn 10 for the players. 10 mana, I suppose, is the better way to put it.
Holy moly, this is fast.
Yeah, these are some ideal Druid starts right here. But that sort of this matchup is interesting when the players keep pace with each other. When one player just has a complete rollover, I don't know. It's kind of lackluster. This one in Rizaka's Priest,
Yeah,
kind of similar in that
I
way.
actually prefer when there's a Druid versus Druid matchup. I actually prefer when they just don't have the ramp at all, or both have the same ramp, because then the game is evenly
Okay.
matched. Although there's a huge difference nowadays which player starts, since Innervate is not that impactful anymore, so no one can make like a crazy comeback just by playing Innervate at some point of the game. Well, Jurgenik has an interesting conundrum right now, since if he commits to Wild Growth, he wants to keep up with the pace of the game from Kolento, but at the same time, um, if he commits to Aya, fits better the curve, but he doesn't have a follow up with the Jades. The Aya would definitely will be a great play if he still would have golems in his hand. But now
Yeah,
it's
if he had a Jade Spirit or an additional Jade Behemoth, this would be much stronger.
Yep. But it still seemed like a good place since Wild Growth next turn is an option. Still is being left then with a Spellbreaker or a Swipe. And if he doesn't get to draw an example in Nourish, Nourish would be the best. But yeah.
Well, Kalento's going to get to Ultimate Infestation faster than Dr. J will, which means Kolento will have a turn or two with far more resources than Dr. J. So even though Dr. J is ahead on Jades right now and slightly ahead on board, Kalento's going to have the resources to be able to catch up.
Ooh, Kolento going for that card draw from Nourish. Because he knows that even if he draws those cards and uses just one card this turn, he will be able to be on 10 cards next turn, just burn one card at some point. So it's not a biggie. When you can just swing the entire board like that with the ultimate infestation, one card burn is not a problem. Unless it's maybe Korn, that's like a big tempo loss. But that's like 1 out of 15, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Behemoth pickup for Dr. J means that Kolento will be at a bigger deficit going into this Ultimate Infestation turn. Dr. J will not have access to his own UI for one more turn, but if he's able to pick up something to develop, he will be able to maintain a board lead.
Wait, apparently we have in-game sound.
We do.
Let me check. Alright, I'm gonna refresh the entire stream.
Oh. We do! I heard the telltale Malfurion,
I don't have it, though. Wait. Actually?
It should be on YouTube. It's very quiet, but try refreshing. It's definitely there.
Oh, now I got it. Alright, well, fantastic. Awesome. New quality.
I told you we were just getting better and better.
Now it's kind of weird when I hear the sounds, you know?
I was just getting so used to the dulcet tones of our voice.
Alright.
Collective caster voice.
So, Kolento, we're gonna burn one card next turn. Not the biggie, as I said before. And DrJikininki needs to do the same next turn. So now he just wants to commit to as much board control as possible. Since everything in this matchup is about board control anyway. Now the question is, chat, please instruct me if the sounds of the game are not too high for you in regards to our voices. Because that's a good question.
No sounds at all, they're saying. It's very quiet on YouTube, but should be there.
Alright.
Okay, yeah, just very low.
Well, I guess I'm gonna put it up on maximum, but can't really do much more than that, since if I'll boost it, it will be very noisy. I already hear like distortion back on the back.
Alright, so Kolento has taken a definitive board lead. Dr. J has his own ultimate infestation. But now that Kolento is essentially one turn of development ahead of Dr. J, it's going to be really, really hard for Dr. J to come back from this one. He has the Spellbreaker to silence off the Aya if he wants it. But this turn does seem like it's going to have to be ultimate infestation. He needs to find some resources, and unfortunately for him, he needs to hope that Kolento misses a turn of development, but that's just not going to be the case when you've just drawn 5 cards.
Yeah, I can't imagine any scenario when Kolento would miss a turn of development when he has 10 cards in hand.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Usually you'll see Ultimate Infestation and then exactly what Kolento had, Aya plus Jade Spirit or Behemoth plus Jade Spirit.
Still, there's a small chance that if DrJikininki were gonna take value trades this turn, it's gonna put an awkward... Kolento might be put in an awkward position when he would have to sacrifice 4 mana for a swipe. Alright, well, Fandral into Wrath can deal 4 damage and Hero Power can kill the Ghoul, but it doesn't really change much in this situation, so maybe it's just better to go for... Actually, we'll just start with the Wrath first, right? No, because we want to draw one of the copies of Jade Idol to just have better tempo development.
We want as many idols as we can get if you're Kolento. He's already ahead, he wants to extend that lead, and additional cheap Jades is exactly how he's going to do it, because he is kind of running out of Jade resources. I say that as he picks up the second Jade Behemoth, and now he's absolutely fine for the next 2 or 3 turns. And even if he does run out of Jades, Medivh plus Ultimate Infestation, he has as well to develop a large board. That's a resource that Dr. J doesn't have access to, because Dr. J is not running Medivh. But again, in this matchup, rather inconsequential. It's just who gets ahead on board first and who gets ahead with ramp first. And it was Kolento this time because his Ultimate Infestation came 2 turns before Dr. J's.
DrJikininki can still stall the game with a Spreading Plague. Oh, and a second copy on top of that as well. But still, that doesn't really switch the board at any given point of the game. And cards like Swipe are now decreasing in value. since every single turn, every single minion that's gonna get played, it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. So 4 damage is just insignificant to the health points of those minions.
What can Dr. J do to swing this one around? He's going to try and just go for heavy Jade development. His Jades are on par with Kolento's, so I mean, this isn't over yet. If he can nourish here and pick up a couple more Jades, he'll be able to match board strength, but he's still going to be 1 turn behind, and he needs to find a way to get ahead.
The only one option that was actually a slight rescue for him would be drawing 2 Jade Idols this turn.
Yeah.
But in this case, he is behind on board even after this turn, and he's not going to retain that board control unless he can still do multiple Jade Idols, but at the same time, he needs to be surviving the swift attack from the Jade Golems from Kolento's side. Because now those Jade Golems are gonna get bigger and bigger each turn, so just 2 Jade Golems next turn, an example, are building up 15 points of damage. And that can be just game in one swing, if you just collect the damage from previous turns as well. This is why Kolento is playing the Mind Control tech in his deck, because that's one of the cards that can actually swing the game around in a mirror match, but actually was burned when he had 10 cards, so it's not that impactful, but it's one of those cards that is actually making that possible.
Yeah, Mind Control tech in the mirror is one of the best tech choices you can go with. Medivh also helps out a little bit, and when Jade Druid was running really rampant on ladder, we were even seeing Big Game Hunter and Black Knight for a little while, but those cards have sort of phased out. Mind Control tech is just the best way to get that much more ahead of your opponent in this matchup, because it can be very, very swingy. I mean, you saw last turn, if Dr. J had picked up 1 more Jade Idol, he may have been able to swing this board state. He would have had an extra 7/7 on board, and that would be enough to fight back against what Kolento has with the addition of Spreading Plagues, Swipes, and Malfurion the Pestilent. So, it's just throwing that Mind Control in, or Mind Control tech just gives you that little bit more push.
So I think there's only one way of playing this turn right now for DrJikininki. It will be just to prolong the game a little bit, just by playing Spreading Plague and Swipe, while sacrificing the 6/6 first, so you can kill 3 minions at the same time, and just putting mass value on the board. But it seems that he did opt for
he's going face.
Okay, well, that's actually...
He's pushing.
He's pushing the face damage. That's a good decision, actually.
I actually really like this.
Yeah.
I personally would not have done this, but that just goes to show why Dr. J's up there and I'm not. I play this matchup very defensively, but Dr. J sees that he's not going to get ahead on board. It's just not possible with Kolento still being 1 turn of development ahead of him every single turn and not feasibly running out of resources going forward. So Dr. J is going to take that little bit of chance wherever he can, save that swipe, push the 6, and maybe Swipe and Ultimate Infestation can get him there. He even has a Spellbreaker to shut down a taunt for direct damage if he needs it, which with 2 Jade Behemoths in hand, he might.
Then the problem is another Spreading Plague from his opponent, but at the same time there might be not enough plays on the board for doing that. So definitely a correct decision by DrJikininki to do the aggressive play here. Oh my god. Well, that actually doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, and Dr. J could have actually gotten 1 additional 1/5 minion if he'd just played the Spreading Plague first and then the Jade Idol. So it was kind of a rough play, followed up by some really, really nice play. I can't really justify that, unfortunately, but it does seem like he changed his mind sort of in the middle of what he was doing. He was going for full development, and then he decided, no, wait, I want to push. I'm going to need to play Spreading Plague. Missed out on a 1/5 Scarab, unfortunately.
But it wouldn't change anything in this case anyway, right? The 1 additional damage doesn't really give him access to a lethal push. And, yeah. Well, he can still do the same plan as before. push for 6 damage, use the swipe to kinda help clear the board, and play the Spreading Plague, of course, before the swipe, right? That will put basically 30 HP on the board, which has to be pushed by Kolento, which is fantastic.
Okay, so looks like Dr. J wants to clear off as much as possible while still planning for this swipe to go face. And this is going to shut down the majority of the damage from Kolento this turn, and he can't develop anything because his board is already so full. Unfortunately, this is Dr. J's last Spreading Plague, so he's not going to be able to sustain much longer. He's very close to just outright killing Kolento, though.
Well, the 1/5, the additional 1/5 will actually make a difference right now because it would trade with the 5/1 minion on the board with the Jade Golem. That could have been a huge difference when you think about it in retrospect now. Since that's actually an additional 5 HP.
Yeah, it's very significant. This would have gone a lot differently had Dr. J continued to play very safely.
Mm-hmm.
It is unfortunate that he did miss out on that one Scarab with his previous Spreading Plague, because it's impossible to tell if that would have changed anything. But I do like the line of play that he took here.
When you think about it, Spreading Plague just tanked 21, 29, 29, 35, 42, 44 damage.
That's a disgusting 6-drop. I mean, I will be honest, only a couple of those in the game. You work with it.
Every single card that has access to multiple minions from just one card might, at some point, might be just overpowered, right? It depends on the metagame, depends on the raw power of the card as well, of course. But in general, it's hard to estimate what is the correct balance on those type of cards. All right, now we're jumping straight to the next game. DrJikininki is staying on the Druid again, but Kolento wants to take his chances with his Rogue. And when you think about it, the Rogue actually can just go and jump over the Druid in no time, since it's basically another zoo.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Rogue can seriously take advantage of those slower first turns from the Druid, whereas in the Druid Mirror, you have the liberty to ramp in the early turns because your opponent will be doing the exact same thing. They're not going to be pressuring you very early on. Rogue is going to be pressuring the Druid from right out the gate. So Dr. J is going to need to find his Wild Growths, yes, find his Jade Blossoms, yes, but he's also going to need Wraths. He's going to want to find Swipe. He needs to find Sustain. Unfortunately for him, Kolento has a rather weak start. He's drawn patches, so he needs some more practice with the Rogue, I suppose. But he's also got that Vicious Fledgling, and Flappy Bird is a killer of Jade Druids, if it can stick.
No Prince Kalisef and patches already in hand. You can definitely say Kolento is a better player.
Savage.
Everyone knows that. It all depends on your own card draw, right? Still, I even with that kind of draw, I do believe that Kolento still has an advantage in this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the Fledgling, if it can be coined out on turn 2 and there's no response from DrJikininki. I mean, basically, there are only 4 cards that are direct response to a minion like that, 2 Wraths and 2 Swipes. Obviously, there's an access to swipe because of the Wild Growth, but I wouldn't mind actually just playing to play the minion right now. Otherwise, Kolento would have to commit to, let's say, deckhand, show that he doesn't have patches in the deck anymore, or just pass the turn. Whoops.
Very slow start for the Rogue. Not what Kolento wants to be doing, but you don't want to waste your deckhand. And you also don't want to give Dr. J the information that Patches is in hand quite yet. Still, definitely more that you can use those cards for.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. J, unfortunately for Kolento, has just had a really very strong start. Turn 4 is a turn that the Druid can easily miss. If they just have a swipe in hand and the Rogue doesn't develop, then they can just hero power pass quite frequently, but Dr. J did have that Mire Keeper on curve, and it's going to fill out his curve really, really well.
Edwin is actually a perfect answer to the Behemoth. Alongside that, Dagger can still buy tempo, but then the Edwin will be in range of Wrath. But at the same time, great play by Kolento by setting up 2 threats that require an answer immediately. So if Dr. J doesn't have 2 answers and fit the mana, then it will be really a difficult position for him. Oh wow, look at that. Jade Blossom instead? Okay, so one of those minions will be alive. I'm guessing that will be Edwin, since 6 damage is not really that threatening when you still have Ultimate Infestation, while Fledgling, if it hits Wind Fury into an example, let's say plus 3 HP would be the best, most likely. Wind Fury plus 3 HP would be really hard to deal with. So by leaving the Edwin, that doesn't really much... Sorry. If it leaves up the Edwin, nothing really happens with the board, since it's still far away from Bonmer to be played, so the only downside would be just taking the additional 6 damage. That's about it.
Yeah, I think Dr. J is just really valuing his swipe, and his next 2 turns are planned out. So, swipe on turn 9, potentially, Ultimate Infestation on turn 10. However, Dr. J could have done that in reverse order, and ramped on turn 8 into Ultimate Infestation, so he could just be taking some unnecessary damage here, especially if Kolento has removal for the 3-3, and then Dr. J is forced to use the swipe anyway. It is just possible that Dr. J could have stuck these idols next turn with the Wild Growth and gone right into Ultimate Infestation. Maybe some odd sequencing there. I don't know.
Whoops.
But Kolento is going to take this one all the way to the rope, develop that Cobalt Scalebane, and now the swipe is going to work out well for Dr. J. Lines up really nicely. Can even trade away the 3-3 Golem if he wants to play out that Jade Spirit instead of a Hero Power.
Well, Kolento had the read that there's no swipe, right? Because that's the way we would have played it. I mean, he probably would have played Wrath and Swipe last turn in Kolento's eyes, so by doing that trade, he kind of plays into the bait. So an interesting occurrence.
Now Dr. J going right into Ultimate Infestation on turn 10. He's going to have all the resources that he needs to challenge Kolento, and Kolento was unable to stick anything for a Bone Mare on 7. We do see he has Stormwatcher in hand alongside that Corpse Taker. I believe there's 2 copies of Stormwatcher, so the Corpse Taker will still be active. So the damage potential for Kolento is still really, really high, but he needs to be able to keep something on the board. And Dr. J, with even just this little board lead, is going to be removing absolutely everything that Kolento plays from here on out.
Yeah, the problem is that Kolento didn't have any significant development for turn 1, 2, 3, basically. And those are the moments where the rogue should thrive and just have a advantage on the board, where Druid struggles to deal with the small minions. But that didn't happen, and because of that, Kolento was falling behind further and further down the line.
Yeah, this is just it.
Well, when I think about it, I think that's enough damage to kill 2 heroes at the same time. Is it? No, it's not. 21, 30.
It's just a little bit too risky. You're putting a lot of eggs in that basket.
Mm-hmm. I mean...
And the eggs were cracked, Lothar.
Definitely.
It's very tragic. But it's still tied up 1-1. Dr. J's Druid was likely just gonna get a win no matter what. That's what Jade Druid does. And now Kolento going to bring back the Tempo Rogue, hoping for... Actually, I lied. That's Warlock. It's just Southsea Captain and Flappy Bird in the deck as well. And Dr. J going to bring out his Control Mage. It's a really interesting mage deck. Not quite what we're used to seeing, not totally pure burn mage. It's a lot of fun.
Let me pick up the list Basically, Frostlich Jaina and Medivh as late game alongside Alexstrasza. And, alright, there's the Skull King guys in it. Will it have impact against the Warlock? Should be, but the Mortal Coil, the Imps, and anything else? Acris, Veterans, Fireflies, actually there's a lot of stuff.
It only hits spells. So
Yeah,
the Mortal Coils... Yeah, pretty much just Mortal Coil. I mean, it's meant for Jade Druid. Jade Druid is really, really difficult for Control Mage to beat, but if you can shut down Jade Idols, then you can actually kill every Jade that is naturally in the deck.
There he is.
Strong start from Kolento, but Dr. J does have the Mana Worm to challenge. Pretty reasonable openings from both of these players. Does Dr. J want to develop this Arcanologist? He can even Arcanologist and coin just to get the additional attack on Mana Worm to trade into the Malchezaar's Imp while developing the Arcanologist. He gives up the coin, but pretty much ensuring 2 of those trades into this Mana Worm might just be worth it.
Yeah, I like that. Honestly, this is one of the turns when Arcanologist on turn 2 doesn't seem like the best play. Well, wait. What are his secrets? I do believe.
That's a good question.
Oh, let me check. DrJikininki secrets are just ice blocks, so it's not really that impactful to have it on turn 3. It doesn't really matter. Alright, well, I would say that committing to Arcane Intellect this turn is an obvious choice since your follow-up will be Fireball on turn 4. And that means on turn 5 you can just coin out Skull King guys if you really need to, if you fail to draw anything significant from the Arcane Intellect in the next 2 turns. But the problem is...
Sorry, I think...
Yes, Kara?
I think I may have disconnected there for just a sec.
No worries.
But I'm back now.
Welcome back.
Good to be here.
So another problem is that he's falling behind because of the fact he had to commit to Arcane Intellect on turn 3, but that was his best play. So he needs to find tempo swings in the upcoming turns. And those tempo swings need to be cards like Firelands Portal, so that might change his turn 5 play in this case, because he cannot commit to Skull King guys, which has not enough of attack to trade with any of the minions on the board.
Definitely need to hold that coin going into turn 5. Cobalt Scalebane's too much of a threat to leave up for additional time, but it doesn't look like Dr. J is going to be able to remove everything going into turn 7. So Bone Mare likely to hit a target, and from there, Zoo Warlock's not going to be losing board. Granted, Dr. J does have a much better time of removing than your average mage deck. He's got 2 meteors, he's got 2 volcanic potions, so he can still find the resources to clear the board, but Kolento's going to take a definitive lead here.
I think like one of the small chances for DrJikininki of actually making a significant change on the board would be Firelands Portal into Doomguard. And that's kinda a stretch. Anything else that he has in the deck? Well, he can go for the Primordial Glyph into a Meteor.
Mm-hmm. Nice Meteor positioning for Kolento.
Mm-hmm. That's almost a Doomguard. Has 5 attack. 11 damage that can be pulled through. Honestly, I just think that Kolento should just play Bomber and just deal the lethal damage descent for the ice block. There's no point.
Just pop this.
Yeah, no point in trading even with the 5-1.
It's still a couple turns away from Frostlich Jaina for Dr. J. Only one more copy of Ice Block in the deck. No reason not to just go for the block pop here and put J on having the second one.
That's helpful, but it's a little bit too late. Polymorph can deal with one of the minions, then a trade with the Bomber on the minion helps Pink, kills the 8-1, but still leaves a 1-1 around and not enough mana to play anything on the back after the ping on the back of the Polymorph. So as much as it looks like a good turn, in most situations there will be not enough.
Nah, close, but the turn that Dr. J was forced to Arcane Intellect just set him behind a little bit too much on board. Unfortunately, that's how this matchup just can go. Dr. J has
decks that are thriving on early board control is just incredibly impactful. If by the way, guys, if you want to check the deck list for the players, I'm linking right now the website with a really cute list of all the decks. You can just hover over the portrait of one of the players and see all the classes and click on the classes to see the deck lists.
So Kolento has picked up a significantly better hand than in his previous game. Prince Keliseth in the opener, and from then on out, every minion that he draws will be buffed. So Dr. J's removal normally lines up pretty well into what Kolento has. Volcanic Potions and Frostbolts can clear off the early game, but Prince Keliseth is going to make these clears a lot more difficult going forward. Now Firelands doesn't kill Cobalt Scalebane. Now Frostbolt doesn't kill South Sea Captain. It's going to be a lot tougher.
Yeah. Oops. I just lost my mouse.
Lothar, stop throwing things.
It's hard to do production and casting at the same time, Cora.
I know. I feel your pain, Lothar.
Alright, well, as you said, this time he doesn't have patches. That's significantly better than the previous game. The fact that DrJikininki has his mana is a saving grace for him, but he still needs to pick up a Primordial Glyph of a Frostbolt. Wow! That's an amazing draw right now because it allows him to push for damage. Another Primordial Glyph, that's even more insane.
Go for the lethal here.
It can actually happen. It's like one out of... I can't remember the number, but it's possible to have lethal on turn 2, basically, right? With this outcome.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but in theory, it can happen.
Frostbolt, of course, would have been the best, since Kolento wouldn't have the chance to kill the Metaver unless he has a backstab hero power. And now DrJikininki is facing a problem since he has no development for turn 3. And now, I wanted to just point out there is an option to play a little bit of a bluff game, just to see what, think. Take your time on that turn 3 when you don't have anything, but you don't have to make it obvious. In this way, Kolento knows that there's not a single card that can be played on turn 3 that is basically not an impactful card, right? To play Cold Blood or not to play Cold Blood?
That is the question.
I would say play the
Going into turn 4... If you can get the 4 damage from it, it's already done its job, and you do net that immediately, so you're fine playing it here. And for Kolento, this very well may draw out a Fireball or a Polymorph from Dr. J because he doesn't want to take this 6 damage again. So this was a very high-value Cold Blood.
Well, he knows that there's no Frostbolt at all in his hand, and there was only one chance to draw a card, and then the second top deck. So, actually, a very small chance of having a Frostbolt after that turn. So it's a very good call to play the Cold Blood. And as you said, it draws out the Fireball. So that's fantastic for the Kobold Skullbane. That's fantastic for the Valspan Slayer in the future, since they have enough HP to survive a Frostbolt. And by the way, Kolento has a cosplay in his hand already. Frostless Jaina will allow him to, well, basically switch the game into something else.
I like it that way. So it's not a Death Knight, it's a cosplay.
Oh.
Kolento would look pretty good in that Frostlich Jaina armor.
Mirror Entity, not really that impactful when your opponent still has one Metaphym left and two Arcanologists. So it might be a bit of a tempo loss. I wouldn't blame Kolento for just developing the Agent here, deal to the additional 2 damage with the combo, and build a pretty good board. That requires a lot of attention. And he still knows that there's no Frostbolt in his opponent's hand, so that that Agent is actually demanding an answer bigger than Frostbolt. Obviously, he doesn't know the card from the Primordial Glyph, and in this case, we know it's a Flame Strike, but you can't really play around anything here.
Alright, relatively low value Flame Strike, but Dr. J just needs to do as much as he possibly can to keep Kolento off of the board. He's got 2 copies of Meteor in the deck, he has Volcanic Potions, there is an abundance of removal for Dr. J, he just needs to find it. But with that Polymorph, going into Frostlich Jaina in a couple of turns, he's gonna have a decent amount of resources still. Not looking too shabby.
Well, now every single... I kind of forget always in the spectator mode that the minions are buffed by +1/+1. It makes such a difference against cards like Frostbolt, when suddenly something with 4 HP cannot be pinged after the Frostbolt to be killed. So now an example, the Valspan Slayers are actually incredibly efficient. Especially after one Frost Fireball was already played to kill a 6/2 minion.
And I see a question in chat. How many wins decides a match? This is a best of 5 conquest match. So first player to 3, first player to win with all 3 of their unique classes will win the series. Currently, Kolento is on match point. So if Kolento wins with this rogue, he will win the match.
And by the way, this is single elimination. That means that DrJikininki will be out of the tournament and taking a top 8 place. Since we did start with 16 players yesterday, it was a group stage, 8 people did advance to the single elimination bracket today, and after that, well, you know, we're gonna just crown our champion. Has Mitsuhide played yet? No, the next match will be RDU versus Mitsuhide. Wait, am I correct? Yes, RDU versus Mitsuhide, and then the last match is Espomito versus Jackie-chan.
Yep, this is quarterfinal number 2. Dr. J taking his time on this one. If he had 1 extra mana, this would have been the easiest turn he'd ever played. But unfortunately, the Meteor is good, but not quite good enough to actually clear the board off here. So that's actually going to be it. Dr. J